What's going on, CDL fans? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be ranking all 12 rumored and confirmed rosters for the CDL coming up in Modern Warfare 2. If you've seen any of my power ranking videos from last season, I like to rank these 1 through 12 right here on this graphic. No tier lists or anything like that. I feel like tier lists are too they're too predictable, right? You kind of know who the good teams are and who the bad teams are, so they're way too predictable. So I like to do an actual 1 through 12 ranking, and that's what we're going to be doing today. As you can see under me, the unconfirmed rosters, we still have almost half the league, or actually half the league, are still technically unconfirmed rosters. We have rumored teams for most of them. Some of them we don't have fully confirmed rumored team, but we have rumored teams for most of them. But we're going to be ranking it anyway, because why not? Kicking it off in last place, honorably last place, is going to be the Las Vegas Legion. I don't know if they're changing their logo, so we still have the Paris logo down here at the bottom. But obviously we know nothing about this team other than they have temp. And just out of, the fact that they've been last place every year so far, we're putting them in last. Next up in 11th, we have the Florida Mutineers. Now, the Mutineers team is rumored to be Major Maniac, Vickle, Havoc, and Brack. So 2 Challengers players, as well as Major Maniac and Havoc being more of the veteran players. This team overall just doesn't really stand out yet. We don't know anything about how these rookies are going to do coming into, their first season in the CDL. So I can't really, expect them to do great. So I'm just going to put them in 11th. I think this roster, could have potential to move up more into like an 8th spot. But for right now, I have them at 11th. Then coming in at number 10, one of the more unconfirmed rosters, we have the London Royal Ravens. Now, right now, you don't really know what we're going to get out of them. It could be Zero, Nasty, and Gizmo all returning with Paul X on top. We don't know if Nasty and Gizmo are returning. Right now, we're pretty sure it's going to be Zero and Paul X plus 2. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. I personally think Zero was very underrated last year, as well as Paul X obviously had a very solid season. But I think this team overall could do pretty well. Obviously not super well because I have them in 10th place, but with the rumored Zero, Paul X, Nasty, Gizmo kind of combination, I think they're sort of right around the 10 mark. Then coming in at number 9, I do have the Los Angeles Guerrillas, which are a confirmed roster of Spart, Hook, Neptune, and Arcees. Personally, I can't have super high expectations because we saw Spart, Hook, and Neptune last season. Yes, they did win the second major, but overall they were a pretty bad and inconsistent team for the majority of the year. Arcees, I do think, is an upgrade over Slasher. Arcees is a great leader, but it'll be interesting to kind of see where they end up. And I sort of like all the other rosters and rumored rosters that we have for the rest of the league over them. I do think this is a team that could end up being like a top 4 team at some point in the year, depending on how well they mesh and just kind of like how good they get together. But right now I have them in 9th, which might be a little bit undeserving, and people might be angry at that, but it is what it is. Then at number 8, we do have the rumored Toronto Ultra roster, which is supposedly Kleenex, Insight, Scrappy, and Standy with Pixie on the bench. I do think this team could be pretty solid. I mean, Kleenex and Insight, we know how good they are. They're great. Obviously very good players. Scrappy as well has showed really, really well in Challengers last year, as well as when he stepped into the Toronto Ultra full team for, I believe it was only 1 series in the CDL last year, but he also played really, really well. And then Standy, Standy had a down year last year coming off of a really good Cold War rookie year, but I do think this team could be really good. You have Kleenex as your, entry SMG, with Standy following up as more of your Slayer, and then Insight and Scrappy. I don't know which one will play the flex because I believe they're both more of main ARs, but definitely think they could be really good, and definitely interested to see kind of how this Ultra roster comes apart. Then at number 7, I do have the New York Subliners. This rumored team is Kismet, Hydra, Skies, and Priesta. Now this team is interesting because right off the bat, when you hear the roster, it's kind of not something that I think is going to be great, right? Obviously we know Hydra's great, we know Skies is really good, we know Kismet is pretty good as well. Priesta pretty bad over the last couple years. But I think this is the sort of team that if they mesh well together, they kind of find their teamwork, find their comms, I think this team can be really good. I mean, Hydra and Kiz can be a very good, SMG duo. Skies is a really good main AR, and if Priesta can kind of get his way going in that flex role, I think this team can be really good because Priesta can play the flex really well. He can use either weapon really well, AR or SMG. So I do think this team could be really good, but just, you know, right now I have them right in the middle of the pack at number 7. Coming in at number 6, I do have the Boston Breach. Now this team right now is Nero Vivid Methods with rumored Awakening or Beans. Beans maybe as a substitute, Awakening coming in more as the flex role. I think this team could be really good. We saw kind of how they started to click maybe towards the end of the year with the Nero and Vivid as they had more time being the SMG duo together. We know Methods, you know, is definitely a solid AR player and was pretty good in the beginning of the year, sort of started to have a difficulty towards the end. I think this team has the potential to be really, really good. Bringing in a really good Slayer like Awakening, I think could be big for this team. He's also a pretty fast player, so he can keep up with Nero and Vivid, and Methods can hold down those lanes as the main AR. I think this team can end up being a top team at some point throughout the year, but right now I have them directly in the middle at number 6. Coming in at number 5, I do have the Minnesota Rocker, a confirmed roster, which I think looks really, really good. Afro, Attach, Bance, and Cammy, totally new team. You got Bance's leadership, you know, you got a bunch of veterans on this team as well as a young gun and Afro. I think overall this team looks like it could be really, really good, and it's actually one of my favorite rosters going into the year, but right now I have to put the other 4 rosters ahead of them. At number 4, it is Optic Texas, obviously running it back. I think you can make an argument for Optic maybe being a top 3 team. You know, we don't really, you know what you're going to get out of them, but it'll be interesting to see if we can get a full year of them playing with Illy and see how good they can get. But right now I do have them coming in at top 4. Then at number 3, we do have the Seattle Surge running it back again with their full roster. I mean, Pred and Sib coming into their 2nd year, probably going to be even better. Accuracy as their leader, Mac as another player on that team who could put up big slaying numbers. I think this team, I'm happy to see them running it back, and I think they could have another good year. And then, but 2 and 1, as we all know, we have FaZe and LA Thieves left. And of course, I'm putting LA Thieves number 1. They're coming off of the World Championship after defeating FaZe. I think LA Thieves are the best team coming in. If you don't have them at number 1, it's pretty disrespectful considering they did just win the championship, obviously. They did just win their rings. I think Atlanta FaZe with Slasher are still going to be a really good team. Slasher was very underrated last year. People did not realize how good he was, and I think he could also be a good leader for this team. You know, he's really good at staying composed in losers bracket runs. I think he could be a really good replacement for RCDs. I still think RCDs is a better fit and just overall a better player than Slasher, but we will see how this Atlanta FaZe meshes with Slasher. And yeah, that's going to do it for my power rankings right now on September 7th, 2022, with, you know, some unconfirmed rosters as well as some confirmed rosters. Let me know down below what teams kind of, where do you think they all fall? What do you think about some of the unconfirmed teams? Where do you think teams like, you know, like Optic or Minnesota are placed in these rankings? Let me know down below. If you did enjoy, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you all in the next video.